and you'll see the teeth of this park gear on it. That's where it's at. So for this demonstration, I'm going to go ahead and use the output shaft from a 3-speed unit instead of our intermediate shaft from your actual transmission. Again, it's the same guts, but it'll help illustrate. So my first gear is park, right? So your explanation for park is relatively easy. That's why nobody verbal. Okay. So your input shaft is spinning clockwise from the torque converter. There are no clutch packs that are engaged in park. So none of the Geartrain members are spinning. There is no direction other than this hub and clutch pack is turning clockwise because the torque converter is spinning. Okay? So this is turning clockwise, no power is being transmitted. The pinion gears are doing what? Nothing, absolutely nothing. Okay? So they're actually, this is the one gear, this in neutral, where they're not idling, they're not walking, they're not stationary. I guess you could say they're stationary because they're not moving. Okay? And they're not moving because of this. So there's no power flow through the Geartrain because no clutch packs are applied. So this is stationary on your park gear that's part of your output shaft. It's actually splined to the output shaft through various splines. We have the park pawl that's engaged and locks it. So no power is transmitted. Your engine is free to rev up as high as you want. No power is being transmitted. The car can't move because the parking pawl is locked or engaged into the park gear, which keeps the vehicle locked, including on an incline or a hill. So you can't push it or anything. Okay? That's all there is to park gear. That's the easy one. The next one on the quadrant is reverse. I'm going to go the order as if though you're going down the shift quadrant for this demo. So, in reverse gear, your input shaft is turning clockwise. Okay? Which clutch pack is engaged?
Forward reverse?
Not forward reverse.
High reverse.
High reverse. Yeah, the forward clutch pack or the rear, forward or rear clutch pack, is not engaged. Okay? This high reverse clutch pack is engaged. So, since the high reverse clutch pack is engaged, you've already explained to me how we feed pressure to that back when you did your hydraulics lab. Okay? Through those slots. Everyone did that lab already. So this is clamped. So now, torque is being transmitted to this drum. So all your torque is being applied to this drum in the clockwise rotation. This drum is lugged to the, what's Levin keep calling this part? The driving shell / sun gear. You can call it either or. It's technically one and the same. Even though you can further disassemble them, if you say to me driving shell or sun gear, either one, it's basically one and the same. So this high reverse drum is lugged, we call that lugged, to the driving shell. The driving shell rotates the sun gears. So the sun gears are turning clockwise. Is the front gear set part of the reverse explanation? No, so you can leave that aside on your bench. You don't need that. Is the rear gear set part of your power flow? Yes. So, the sun gear is turning clockwise. So we got a sun gear turning clockwise. What is holding this, or what is happening with this reverse, low reverse drum?
The band is holding.
The reverse band has clamped it, hasn't it? Okay. That low reverse drum is holding what gear member?
Ring gear.
No.
The carry.
the carrier. It's, who remembers what term I just used? It is what?
Lugged.
Lugged. Very good. It's lugged to the carrier. Okay. So, you're turning this. Come on. Get clockwise rotation from the high reverse, driving the driving shell, driving the sun gear. We're holding the carrier. The output shaft is splined to the ring gear, okay, like so. So for this gear set we have input, reaction, output, right? What is happening to the pinion gears? They're idling because they're being held by the low reverse drum. Okay? Is that all of reverse? What's my next gear on my sheet? Neutral. So neutral. Input shaft is turning clockwise. Are either of my clutch packs applied? No. So there's no power being transmitted through the gear sets, are there? What is my output shaft doing at this point? Okay. The parking paul's now moved out because we're in neutral, so it's not locked. So what can you do with the car in
Push it
neutral?
forward or reverse. You can move it.
Could move, especially if you're on an incline, right? Now question, even though we said the Geartrain is not effective and everything's stationary, okay, if the car is being pushed, can we start turning Geartrain members? But be careful, because the lab says explain power flow. Even though you may be turning Geartrain members in neutral, is there any engine torque being transmitted through them? No. Now you did read about, and you'll see on the dyno here in a few short weeks, that thing we call neutral creep, right? Where just due to friction because of clearances and the fluids, if you're on a, like in a shop where it's really flat and your tires are fully inflated, you're on a rack and there's not a lot of friction, even in neutral, even though nothing's applied, the car can creep forward because you actually get just a small percentage of power or torque transmitted through enough Geartrain members. It's not enough to really drive the car or go up any, it won't even run over like a 1x2 or something. They call that neutral creep. And when you test off in your dynos, you're even allowed to have neutral creep. Okay? That's considered somewhat normal. Do all cars have neutral creep? No, it varies, doesn't it? There's a lot of factors that you take into account. Okay, flip the lab sheet over. What's the next gear? I think the next gear is that dreaded. Okay, D1 or M1? D1. Drive one. That's that dreaded one. Remember, first gear is the only time we use both planetaries. Exactly. Okay, so what's my input? Input shaft or turbine shaft. Okay. What clutch pack is applied in first gear? This one or this one? The forward or rear? And I don't care which term you prefer. Okay.
Called the rear also.
Because it's in the back one. So that's why I gave you in the clutch and band apply chart that this could either be called the forward and the rear, front or rear clutch packs. I prefer, and again, I'm bringing that damn Ford stuff into the classroom again. So your Chrysler books will call this the front and the rear. I like Ford's terminology that tells me what it's doing. Ford would call this the high and reverse clutch pack, and this the forward clutch pack.
Because that confused me on that chart. It said like front clutch back.
Well, and I gave you both. So if you're reading a Chrysler book, and you see the Chrysler terminology of front and rear, it won't confuse you.
Okay.
I'm trying to teach you what I have to do to remember what they do. So that's why I call this the high reverse and this the forward. That tells me that this clutch pack is applied in what gears? High and reverse. This clutch pack is applied in what gears? All forward gears, exactly. Okay, so this one's not doing anything, is it? In fact, we're going to learn here in a few minutes it's actually doing what? It's turning backwards, isn't it? Do you see why clearance can become so critical? If you have a little bit of drag on this because it's too tight when you build it, and you're trying to spin it backwards, remember this is splined to that sun gear. Remember how I kept saying this is the busy fella? We go backwards in first, then we lock it in second, then we drive it in third. And that all means that's what this thing's doing. And let me get back on track here. Okay, so I'm in first gear. Input shaft spinning clockwise. Forward clutch pack is applied. Forward clutch pack applied means we are driving the front ring gear. Okay, so we're driving the front ring gear.
Those are idling.
And for now, I'm just going to put this part into it. Okay, so I'm driving the front ring gear clockwise, which is causing my sun gear to do what?
Counterclockwise.
Spin counterclockwise. Okay. When I did that, my front carrier, my front pinions are
Idling.
idling. Okay. So now, I have the sun gear going in here in a reverse direction, don't I? Okay. Now, what's the natural tendency going to be of this drum? It's trying to do what? It's trying to turn counterclockwise, isn't it? So, what do we do to prevent that from happening and get the kind of reaction that we want? We have a one-way clutch that's bolted to the case, isn't it? When I hold this one-way clutch, now what happens?
You're going the right way.
Okay? The output we're now holding, by holding this one-way clutch, what member of the gear set are we holding? No, the ring gear is splined to the holding the carrier. Exactly. Okay. So, sometimes when it's all together it gets a little bit clouded. That's why I keep taking it apart. Again, this is splined to this. Okay? So, the case holds the one-way clutch, only allows it to turn clockwise, not counterclockwise. That's going to thus hold the rear planetary gear set. When you're holding the rear planetary gear set, the pinions are
Idling.
idling. So now if I put this back on, so now I'm going counterclockwise on my sun gear. The pinions are,
Idling.
the output is the ring gear to the output shaft. And the ring gear is turning in the
Clockwise.
Counterclockwise.
counterclockwise.
Opposite direction you're spinning. So.
Because, oh, I'm sorry, clockwise.
Clockwise,
We're in first, not reverse. I'm fine. Yeah, counterclockwise, clockwise. Yeah, look at it, Levin. You got it right here. Counterclockwise, clockwise. Okay. What's next?
Intermediate.
Drive intermediate or drive 2. Is my rear gear set any part of drive 2? Can I leave that off to the side? is my front gear set part of drive 2. What's my input in drive 2?
Forward.
Forward. Not this one yet, right? So I can leave this off to the side. Input shaft turning clockwise. The forward clutch is applied, which means it's turning the front ring gear clockwise. Okay. So the front ring gear is turning clockwise. So this is turning clockwise. Now, what's happening to this?
It's being held by the intermediate.
Being held by the intermediate band, clamping around this because it's lugged. So this high reverse clutch drum also becomes the intermediate band drum. Wow, that's a busy fella, isn't it? On the inside it is a, well, what did we call that again last week? What kind of device? Driving device. So the inside is a driving device and the outside is a holding device. All right. So, we're driving front ring gear, holding the sun gear, and getting reduction. Let's see if I can get everything lined up here. So, input clockwise. There's 1 and about 1.5. It's down here. Okay. My pinions are walking. They are walking. Okay. Very good. What's next?
Third.
Direct for third. Is my rear gear set part of this. Nothing to do with it, is it? What's my input?
Forward clutch.
Forward clutch and the direct clutch. So this is spinning clockwise. This clutch is applied, which is going to spin front ring gear clockwise. This clutch is applied,
Front sun gear.
which is going to spin the sun gear clockwise.
And 1 to 1.
So we're driving both of these, aren't we? Exact same speed. Both of these are being driven clockwise, which means both of these are being driven clockwise. And if you look, when I'm driving both things clockwise, there's my input, there's my output.
It's all 1 to 1.
1 to 1. My pinion gears are
Stationary.
stationary or locked. The rear gear set, nothing to do with this. Okay. What's next on my
Manual 2.
manual 2? That's the next one down, right? So in manual 2, input shaft is turning clockwise. Which clutch is applied in manual 2?
Front.
Forward clutch, not front. Again,
Forward,
apologize for the... Hey, it's our industry, guys. I know sometimes I catch heat. Why do you call it both? Well, guess what? That's what the... and then if you go to work for Asians or GMs, you know, C1 and C2. And that C1 and C2, what? Clutch 1, clutch 2. Okay? So, I don't mean to confuse you. I'm just trying to get you used to the way our... Again, I prefer Ford's method, not just because I've been a Ford tech since 1977, but I like it because they tell me what the hell it does. C1, does that tell me anything? Front clutch, does that tell me? It tells me where it's at in the transmission. I like the high and direct. It tells me when it's applied. I like the forward clutch. It tells me it's applied in all forward gears. So in manual 2, the forward clutch is applied. Okay? So power is being, what about this clutch? Better not be applied, had it. Okay? So this is turning clockwise, which is turning the
Front ring gear.
front ring gear clockwise. Okay? So power's going into the front ring gear. What else is happening in manual 2?
The intermediate band is applied.
Intermediate band's applied, which is going to lock this drum, which is going to lock the
Sun gear.
sun gear. Okay. Come on. Get my tongue just right. See, you think it's just you guys, right? How many times have you seen me put this together and take it apart, and every now and then it's still just a fight? It's funny how gears can be like that. Okay. So, input, held, output through a gear reduction. And my pinions are
No, they're
walking.
walking.
And because this is manual 2, through a function of the valve body and the manual valve, it starts in second gear, it ends in second gear. There is no upshifting, no downshifting. The throttle valve and the governor circuits are disabled. A manual valve sends hydraulic pressure to the forward clutch and to the band only. All other hydraulic circuits are blocked off, so there is no other gears. Okay. Will you have engine braking? Yes. Because there is no coast down, you're not going through first gear at all. Everything's locked and held, so you will get engine braking. And my last one, manual 1. Input shaft is spinning clockwise. Which clutch pack is applied? Forward only. Okay. Again, if this one were applied, it'd be bad news, because this is the gear we're going to turn this thing backwards, isn't it? Okay. So, which gear sets do we need for manual 1?
All of it.
Both of them. We need the whole dang thing. Okay. So, since this forward clutch is applied, we're driving the front ring gear, right? We're driving the front ring gear. That is causing the sun gear to go counterclockwise. Okay. The sun gear is going counterclockwise. The front pinions are
Idling.
idling. Very good. So, what's happening with the rear gear set?
It's being held by the one-way clutch.
And
Not manual 1. Well, actually the one-way clutch and
The band.
The band.
the low reverse band. Yeah, and that low reverse band is a little bit of a misnomer. Is it always used in low gear? Only manual low. Okay, in drive low, the low reverse band isn't applied. Okay, so in manual 1, the band's clamped, which is going to lock this carrier. What are the pinions doing right there? You can actually see them idling. And then, whoops, you can't do that. I need fingers here. Somebody's fingers on that carrier. And there's my manual first gear. The biggest difference between drive 1 and manual 1 is, since this clutch is applied, in drive 1, when you're in the coast mode, what's it allow this drum to do?
engine braking.
Overrun and coast in drive 1.
Oh, and drive one, yeah.
Now that we're in manual 1,